save and hang on, and then Tkachuk gets involved.
He once drilled a Bruins winger with a cross-check after the buzzer. Another time kept swinging on David Pastrnak even after he dropped to his knees in a playoff fight. Was Matthew Tkachuk the nastiest player in the NHL? Let's find out. Matthew Tkachuk didn't sneak into the league. He arrived with a last name everyone already knew and a style you couldn't ignore. Born in Arizona, raised in St. Louis, he basically grew up in an NHL rink. His dad Keith played nearly 1,200 games, his brother Brady wears the C in Ottawa, and Matthew spent his childhood on the bench watching practice instead of sitting in a classroom.
Years, I think, since the last international opportunity, so this is my 9th year in the league, so I've kind of gotten the short end of the stick on that.
On the ice, he tore through the U.S. national team development program, then skipped college to join the London Knights. There, he played on a loaded line, put up 107 points, and scored the overtime winner in the Memorial Cup final.
On Taylor. There's a pass. It's a good one. Tkachuk. Wait, shoots.
Calgary took him 6th overall in 2016. As a rookie, he dropped 48 points, racked up 105 penalty minutes, and instantly became that guy. Top 6 talent and top-tier annoyance in the same shift.
And it's deflected up into the netting and draws a crowd here behind the net.
And here's where
the night a rivalry realized what it was dealing with came early. Edmonton, Oilers, Flames, Battle of Alberta, with a new villain. In one game, Tkachuk seemed to test every gray area he could find. He hammered Chris Russell from behind into the boards. Later, he got tangled up with Brandon Davidson in a way that had people calling it a slew foot.
Was that like something in your mind where when you come back, you're going to do him up because he deserved it?
Then he caught Adam Larsson with a high hit that had the bench fuming.
We got a little scrum here over in front of the Ottawa bench, and it started off with Brady Tkachuk taking a pretty healthy run at Adam Larsson, and then Goodbranson has a few words with Cassian.
3 different plays, one night, all of them landing right in that "are we suspending this guy" zone. For Edmonton fans, it was simple. Someone had to answer. For everyone else, it was the first real look at the Calgary kid who seemed to be building his career on contact, chaos, and walking away with a grin while everyone else lost their minds. Not long after, the league stopped wondering and started acting. In March 2017, against the Kings, Tkachuk caught Drew Doughty with a sharp elbow to the face. Doughty's not a fringe guy. He's a Norris winner, a big personality, and the kind of player who will tell every camera exactly what he thinks of you afterward.
Doughty's down and behind the goal. Play continuing, and now Pearson.
The hit earned Tkachuk a 2-game suspension and something even more important, a label. Once you got an elbow to the head and suspended on your file, every borderline hit after that gets replayed in slow motion. But some of his nastiest moments didn't even happen in the play. They happened around the edges. In November 2017, Detroit's Luke Witkowski got tossed from a game and skated toward the tunnel. He was done.
Witkowski's got the right three big time.
Then Tkachuk jabbed him in the leg with his stick as he was leaving. It wasn't a battle in the corner. It wasn't a tangle at the net. It was a spear to a guy who was already halfway off the ice. That one got him a major, a game misconduct, a 1-game suspension, and a line brawl. The message was clear. This wasn't just a hard competitor going overboard during a scramble. This was a player willing to send a cheap shot when a guy's guard was down. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what dirty looks like. And then he took it one step further. He didn't even bother to be on the ice.
There was a pileup, and Matt Martin, as is often the case, was in the middle of it.
Later that year, against Toronto, a scrum broke out near the bench. In the middle of the chaos, cameras picked up Tkachuk reaching out from the Flames bench and jabbing his stick into Leafs forward Matt Martin. He got suspended again for unsportsmanlike conduct. Even when the league doesn't sit him, the fines tell their own story. In November 2021, he caught Dallas defenseman John Klingberg with a high stick and ended up paying a $5,000 fine, the maximum allowed under the collective bargaining agreement.
And watch Matthew's stick come up. There's no question he gets.
In Florida, the stakes and the spotlight only got bigger. By the time he got there, Tkachuk wasn't just a pest. He'd already turned into one of the best forwards in the league, putting up 104 points in his last season in Calgary and then topping it with 109 in his first year in Florida. He became a Hart Trophy finalist, an All-Star MVP, and the face of a team that would go to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and win 2 of them. And he was still stirring the pot. Early in the 2022-23 run against his old Pacific Division rivals in Los Angeles, he went right at their last line of defense. Late in the third period, he jabbed Kings goalie Jonathan Quick up high, catching him in the mask area. Goalies sit in a different category in hockey. Touch them at all, and you're asking for trouble. Put your stick near their head, and you're asking for the league.
Yeah, the stick hits Jonathan Quick in the head. Unfortunately, the officials, I believe, did not pick it up. The officials are huddling right now.
He got another 2-game suspension. That play didn't just make the Kings hate him more. It reminded everyone that even as an elite scorer, he was still willing to poke the one player every unwritten rule tells you not to. Then came Boston. Playoffs, heat, history, and one of the league's biggest superstars on the other side. In Game 2 of a 2024 series, Tkachuk and David Pastrnak dropped the gloves at center ice. 2 heart-level talents throwing punches in a blowout. The fight itself looked like classic playoff theater until Pastrnak lost his balance and dropped to his knees.
The gloves with Tkachuk at center ice. Tkachuk lands a right on Pastrnak and came over the...
Usually that's the moment you ease off. That's the quiet code. Guy down, fight's over. Tkachuk kept swinging. 2 more shots while Pasta was down. But for a lot of people watching, the story wasn't what they thought. The story wasn't that they fought, it was how he finished it. If you want pure playoff nastiness though, you look at what he does when the clock is basically dead. In the 2023 playoffs, after a period ended against the Bruins, Tkachuk drove his stick into Garnet Hathaway with a cross-check after the buzzer. No live play, no puck battle, just an extra shot once the horn went. He got another $5,000 fine. To Florida fans, that was setting the tone, sending a message that nothing would be easy. To Boston fans, it was a cheap shot fired when the contract of the whistle says you're supposed to stop. That's where the debate around him always lives. Is that intensity or is that dirt? The Leafs got a front row seat to that same argument. Game 1, 2025 playoffs, Toronto has the win locked down. There's about a second left on the clock when Tkachuk makes one more desperate lunge toward Mitch Marner near the boards. In one angle, it looks like he's trying to take away Marner's legs. In another, it just looks like he's throwing his body around in chaos. Marner steps aside and mostly dodges it, but that's not the point for fans watching. Leafs fans lit up social media calling it a dirty, dangerous attempt in a game that was already decided. Panthers fans fired back that it was just playoff physicality and that if you can't handle a hit with a second left, maybe you don't know postseason hockey. One clip, 2 angles, infinite arguments. That's the Tkachuk experience in a nutshell.
Give away. That is empty. Sorelli scores.
Huge hit by Tkachuk on Gensel.
He lined up Lightning forward Jake Guentzel and delivered a hit that officials called interference, handing him a 5-minute major. The online reaction was instant. Depending on which jersey you own, it was either a textbook predatory play or a hard hit that the league is making soft. After review, the NHL decided there would be no supplemental discipline, no extra games, no suspension. For Panthers supporters, it proved the hit wasn't as bad as the replays made it look. For everyone who already thought Tkachuk gets away with too much, it felt like the league once again letting him skate because it's the playoffs and he's a star. Either way, the pattern stays the same. When Matthew Tkachuk hits you, you're not just dealing with the contact, you're dealing with the discourse that follows. What makes all of this harder to pin down is that he isn't some fourth-line stir stick. He's an alternate captain on a team that's won back-to-back Stanley Cups. He's put up 104 and 109-point seasons. He's been a Hart Trophy finalist, an All-Star Game MVP, and the guy who scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal in Game 6 of the 2025 final.
Looks like it had. Now Tkachuk in front. Score!
He plays hurt too. He battled through serious injuries, including a torn adductor and a sports hernia, then came back in time for the playoffs and tied for the team lead in points on another championship run.
To him right at the end of the period there, he collides with
Krebs, and you see him just holding that right shoulder.
That's why the nastiest player label gets complicated. If he were just a cheap shot artist, teams would walk away. Instead, franchises build around him. They hand him the letter, give him the big contract, and accept the fines, the suspensions, and the headlines because of what he brings when the puck drops in May and June. So what do you call that? Is Matthew Tkachuk the nastiest player of his era? A guy who never saw a gray area he didn't want to skate through? Is he the ultimate playoff weapon, the kind of forward who can beat you on the score sheet and in your head at the same time? Or is he just the modern version of something hockey's always had, a star who refuses to separate skill from spite? Whatever side you're on, one thing's obvious. When Matthew Tkachuk is on the ice, nobody changes the channel. If you want more stories from hockey's fault line, hit subscribe and stick around. We've got more coming.